My name is Samuel Sutton. I'm a reporter here at the Fredericksburg Standard. Today I'm joined by City Council Member Polly Rickwood, City of Fredericksburg Manager Kent Myers, and City Mayor Charlie Keeney. Thank you all for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us.
Today we're going to be talking about the city's legislative priorities. I'm just going to be asking them a few questions, and we'll just go from there. So first off, I know you guys have sent us over a list of the legislative priorities for the city, but if y'all could kind of summarize them for the viewers, that would be great.
Okay, so first off, Sam, I'll start it and then see what Mayor and Polly have anything they want to add. But of course, our state legislature meets every 2 years. They have just convened their 2021 session. And normally what our city council does for each session is they discuss and approve some of our local priorities. And then what we do is we communicate these priorities to our delegation in Austin, so they'll know kind of what's important to the city of Fredericksburg. And so this year, we put together a couple list of priorities. We discussed it at one council meeting, and then we kind of merged those two lists together, and then last month the council approved a listing of priorities. The priorities generally deal with either planning and growth issues. A lot of the priorities deal with planning and growth issues. Because our community is growing, and we want to make sure we have the ability to plan and create some development guidelines and regulations. And then a lot of priorities have to do with revenue and financing. And again, as we're growing and hopefully improving services, we have the financial ability to fund those services. And so those are the two primary areas. We have a couple other priorities related to law enforcement and the cybersecurity, but the two main areas of our legislative priorities involve budget and finance and planning and development.
All right, and then this year, how do some of these legislative priorities, how will they be beneficial to the citizens of Fredericksburg?
So I'd probably say some of them are maintaining local control so that our city has the ability to manage our growth and manage our services on a cost-effective basis. Some of the legislative action items that might come across that we would not want are things that hamstring our ability to either provide services now or in the future.
And there has been some discussion at council meetings from one of the citizens saying that it was taking some of the power away from the citizens, some of the priorities were taking some of the powers away and giving it more to the city. What is the city's comment on that?
I think at this point, if you look at the priorities, we're in a defensive mode. We're basically, as Polly mentioned, we're trying to defend our current local authority, but we're not trying to add anything to it because over the last couple of sessions, some of our local authority has been taken away from us, and we're just trying to say enough is that that's enough, and we're just trying to maintain the level of authority we have and not reduce any authority of the citizens. And again, a lot of this has to do with our citizen expecting a certain level of services, whether it's a 5-minute response time from police or picking up their garbage and leaves on a regular basis. And we just need the financial ability to provide those services. And so, again, it's more of a protective of our local control.
All right, and then next few questions that I have just kind of goes over a few of the priorities that I had read. So the first question is, has the statement discussing restricting the municipality's ability to collect and utilize tax revenue to support municipal operations?
Well, they put that cap on us the last time, and it can surely make an impact on our budgeting process. And sometimes, no one likes to pay property tax or taxes and see tax increases. And by putting that ceiling on us, it's not giving us the opportunity to possibly enhance and improve our services and other things that our citizens would like.
The other problem with the cap that we saw here is our rate is so low compared to other cities. So when you set a percentage cap, say 3 or 5%, and it's on a low base, our rate's around 22%. So 3% of 22% is a lot less than a lot of cities around here have a 50-cent tax rate or more, and if you set a 3% on that, then their ability to raise taxes are going to be a lot more than than us because our base rate is so low.
Makes sense. And then, what sort of legislation would erode or limit some, city revenue, the city's revenue and the ability to provide, services? And what type of services, would the city, would be affected?
Okay, so our taxes are property and sales tax, fund general fund services. And so for the public, those services include police, fire and EMS, street, parks, development services, and that's the property and health department. So those are the things that we would have to look at reducing if our finances or our tax revenues went down. And so again, we think our citizens would probably express some concerns if we looked at reducing any of those. They depend on them, they enjoy them, it adds to our quality of life, our safety and so forth. And so those are the areas that are funded from our tax revenues.
Okay. And then, on the legislative priorities, you had mentioned the shot clock bill. What is that, and what burdens could it have on the city?
Okay, I talked a little bit to Jason Lutz, our new Development Service Director, and he has some experience with the shot clock bill. Was passed last session 2 years ago.
Okay.
And basically what that says is for new plats and plans, cities have got to respond to those within 30 days. They have to take some sort of action within 30 days. And this bill was passed because the city of Austin was sitting on plans and plats down at Austin City Hall for months and months. And so the legislature responded to the city of Austin and said, we can't let this happen. These developers have money invested in their development, and we need to require cities to act quicker on this. So the smaller cities like Fredericksburg were caught into this anti-Austin bill. It causes a problem for us because we have a very limited staff. We our development services. So if we get a big project, like right now we have a subdivision on Friendship that includes over 300 lots. And it takes a while for us to go through and do a review, get it scheduled for Planning and Zoning Commission, put the public notices out. And so that time restriction really places a major burden on particularly smaller cities like us that have small staff, and we get a big project and it's really almost impossible to meet that time frame. So we're asking for some relief on that.
Okay.
And also, we have never had a problem with getting plats and plans processed on a timely basis. I mean, we're not sitting down there for 2 or 3 months waiting.
All right. And then I also had seen on the legislative priorities, it mentioned regulating STRs. And how does that benefit the community?
Well, we have a surge of STRs. Bed and breakfasts, I think, is what they prefer to be called. And because of the numbers that we have now inside the city limits, it's causing areas of concern in residential neighborhoods with noise, trash, parking. We did pass some regulations to improve the health and safety of the visitors who come to the STRs with a very inspection process that would ensure their safety, who to call, and post those numbers on walls so they know where exits are, etc. So it is not only for the bed and breakfast or STRs benefited, but it's also for the benefit of the residential neighborhoods to maintain that old Fredericksburg family values in those neighborhoods.
All right. And then why does the city want to oppose legislation that would put more limits on municipal authority to set property taxes?
That cap issue that we
Yes,
just
that we
discussed, that's
discussed.
exactly what that would be about.
Okay.
Because, and we get the majority of our revenue from sales tax.
Yes.
And that gives us the luxury of keeping our property taxes as low as they are. Especially for the level of service that people have come to expect here that you don't get in other cities.
Mm-hmm.
But if they keep encumbering our ability on property tax, and we take a negative hit on sales tax for some reason, like we did this year due to COVID, then we run a budget deficit.
Mm-hmm.
Or we have to cut back the services. We don't have any other choice. So we've got to be able to balance out a cost-effective service and the ability to actually create the revenue that pays for those services.
And then, what type of unfunded mandates would cause costs to be passed down to residents? I saw that was
Well, a lot of those come up with infrastructure like our landfill. If you look at the history of the state over the last 5 or 10 years, they've increased quite a bit the regulation of landfills. And we understand there's a certain purpose with those, but there's also a cost associated with them. And things like we had to put additional lining in landfills whenever we had cells. A lot of them have to do with our sewer treatment plant. And again, those sort of have a cost associated with those. And when those come down, the state government doesn't always, provide us money to implement those requirements, and so we have to pass the cost along to the local citizens. And so it'd be great if the state, when they do this, if they could give us some sort of resources to implement these mandates. So that's basically what we're talking about. Is when they do this, understand that it may affect utility rates, and any assistance they can provide along with the regulation would be helpful. So that's what we mean by unfunded versus funded mandates.
Okay. All right. And I think that's all the specific questions that I have. But is there anything else that you guys would like to add before letting y'all go?
Well, I'd like to say, Fredericksburg is an excellent place to live. Are we perfect? No, not by any imagination, but I will tell you that of all the folks that I know in this community, I think they're all together in making this community what it is and what it can become. And I'm just very proud to be on this city council, that I've been on it now for 5 years. And I'm looking forward to moving forward in 2021, and hopefully we'll get to 2022 and we'll be back to normal.
I think I would just say ditto.
All right. Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in, and thank you guys for joining us. Once again, my name is Samuel Sutton, and this is Mayor Charlie Keeney, City Manager Kent Myers, and City Council Member Paulie Rickard. Thank you very much.
Make it a great day.